right. When we hear the word grief, we often only think of death, but grief shows up in so many areas of our life. Today, we're going to jump in and explore the different faces of grief, how it touches us, and how we can navigate it with grace. So, hello, I'm Jen.
And I'm Erin. Welcome to Life Beyond the Scale.
All right, Erin. I know we've had a few bloopers
Hiccups?
happening this afternoon, some hiccups here,
3 times.
but
It's a charm. We got this.
all right, we're ready. We're ready. But we're going to talk about grief today, and that's a little more somber of maybe a topic than we've talked about before. So let me just ask, I guess, to kick us off right away with when you hear the word grief, what do you think of? Like, how do you define grief?
For the longest time, I would have said death and sadness. But as I've gotten older, I feel like we feel grief on so many other things besides losing a loved one in death, that there is the grief of the transition, this different stages of life. When we age, there's the loss of a friendship, there's a loss of perhaps a divorce there is a job. Maybe, you've lost your job, your career has been cut short before you're ready for it to be over. There's so many life experiences we feel grief for when they end. Not just about losing a loved, that we need to recognize that we can feel grief for so many other different scenarios besides that.
One size fits all or a
Yes.
timeline, right?
Yes.
And that grief is, I guess it's probably often sad, right? We're mourning that change of life, that season, the sending the kids off to college, all of that. There is a mourning period that's happening, but sometimes it shows up in anger and anxiety and with stress. Maybe, maybe we're snapping more often, maybe we're fatigued and just want to crawl in bed. It doesn't have one face, right? Like, and I don't think that we should expect everyone to follow a pattern. Numbness that can happen, the confusion that comes in, maybe even a little bit of relief sometimes
I
after a loss.
I would like to throw in guilt for
Mm.
for relief.
And maybe we're grieving the fact that sometimes we don't have a choice. We don't have a say, right? As we're living in this world where we want to control everything. And so, whether it's your body giving out on you, and so you can no longer do that favorite activity, or your mind giving up on you, and you can no longer have those relationships that you wanted to do, or you have to start retreating. Yeah, loss can be a hard one that doesn't just mean death.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just in New York with, taking Talia to grad school, and one of our sons came with us, and Nevik's going to be 17 or 16, sorry, this month. And, so he's taller than me. He's not grown, but, he thinks he is. And yet, while we were walking around New York City, my husband and I and our son, we were almost grieving the kid that he used to be. My husband at one point was, we were kind of all walking in a line, and he said, reached over to like hold his hand and was like, "Can we swing you?" And I thought, oh, do you want to get on our shoulders? Like, those childhood moments, which also it changes for the good too, right? But sometimes we also have to recognize that we're grieving the traditions, some of the holiday traditions that the kids are like, we're big, we don't do that anymore, we don't want to do that, or don't do that, please. All of that is happening. And so grief is going to show up in a lot of different forms. My husband loves to say, that, repeating it from someone else. I don't know who to give credit for to, but hurt people hurt people. And so when we're hurting, we might end up hurting someone else because we don't know, or we haven't processed that pain yet. So that having someone to talk to or to find community in, because otherwise sometimes that might just come out on me, your friend, your coworker, your spouse, your
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Or are you just crying walking around the grocery store or the Home Depot? Because
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like you said, this emotion has to come out, and we can't keep shoving it down, whether that's with food or with substances, or even just sometimes crawling in bed,
Yeah.
just being numb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of different things that we're grieving. I will share with you a funny story. I was seeing a holistic doctor, and I love her and her practice. But it's a lot different than when you go for, a yearly exam with a Western medicine doctor. And so there's different things that they do to kind of get in tune and to, I guess, understand what's happening in your body and communicate with your body. And so I'm lying on the table and she's doing, her thing. And all of a sudden, as she's like going through the different parts of my body, she gets to my lower abdomen and says, I kind of think that your uterus might be disappointed in you. And I, of course, just like bust out laughing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure my uterus is fine. Thanks. And I thought, what are you talking about? And she's like, I don't know, but some of this blockage and some of the disorders and struggles that I was having were female issue related. And through that process, I ended up having to have a uterine ablation. And I was told by my gynecologist that, to just be clear that after this ablation happened, that my uterus would no longer be able to carry a child,
Yeah.
right? That it would not be a safe environment. So, are you done having kids kind of conversation? And we have 6 children. I'd had a miscarriage. I was okay with that. I was okay with not having a period ever again. Like there was some good news that came in that. But it was so interesting that when this doctor brought this up, that then she kind of just paused and said, it's okay if you're disappointed that that choice was taken away from you.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, I don't know if I ever thought of it in that sense. And so I don't know if my uterus is disappointed or not. I'm okay with not having a menstrual cycle anymore. But that got me even thinking about just that grief, right? Like, so yes, I went through a terrible grief and loss with a miscarriage. Um and even close family members not understanding how to support me. Even some very unkind things about this happens to all women. You just aren't supposed to talk about it. And like that was a hard thing to process as well. That could be a whole nother podcast, right? Like all these things that we hide and we pretend that we have to carry on by ourselves. But just, yeah, there can be a grief and just your body not doing what you want it to do.
Mhm. With menopause, I think many women feel that
Yes.
experience of like, why do I feel so out of control for no reason? What's going on? I had a hysterectomy at 42. And I remember when they said, in order to get rid of all these polyps, this is what we need to do. Are you done with having children?
Yeah.
And I was definitely done, but I had a moment of sadness of like, oh,
Yeah.
it's done. And it's not really my choice per se. It's this we're going
Hmm.
to do this and we're going to get this done and there's no going back. And so I had a moment of sadness and then I had another moment of like no periods anymore. Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, maybe
That
even a
I'm
little sense of hope comes out of grief sometimes.
that moment of sadness, then I needed to take that pause to then shift my mindset of like, oh, this is actually going to be a good thing for me. This is going to
Yeah,
be a freeing thing for me. But you need to process through the initial moment of like, oh, I feel
right,
sad. Okay.
right.
Yeah. And
And it might not even be I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
no,
you. Go ahead.
no, I was
I
done.
was just my brain kind of just went into this like, yeah, we have to allow ourselves permission to feel the feelings. We have to give ourselves permission to grieve. I would encourage, any of my coaching clients that come to me with some type of loss, whether it's a loss of a pet or a loved one or just their body functioning, right? uh, to say we need to feel the feelings. We need to allow ourselves to grieve in whatever way that is. For some, it's not even tears, right? And for some, it's nonstop tears. So we can't compare, and there's not a timeline for this. we probably need to figure out for us individually, because it is such a personal emotion, right? To figure out, like, how could I support myself in this? Is it finding a therapist? Do I need a community support? Do I need to join a support group for others that are, going through the same type of loss that I am? Is there, just journaling? Is it music? Is it reminiscing and looking through old photos? Right? Giving ourselves grace and permission to say, like, what will it be like for you? Do you
Yeah.
need to plant a tree in memory or have a celebration of life, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is so different.
Knowing that you have that one person that you can think of that you can call up and say, "You got a minute?
Yes.
I need to talk. I need a minute."
Yes.
Being able to have that support system is so, so very important to be able to know that you can say the things out loud and it's okay.
On that note, let's give another piece of advice for that friend on the other side of the
Yeah.
grief. You don't need to fix us,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
you might just need to listen and to be quiet, or to
100%.
just be quiet with me,
Yeah.
right? I don't need to hear your similar situation. I don't need to hear what you would do if you were me. I just need somebody to be able to be like, "Hey, can we go for that walk? Can you sit and be in the moment with me?"
Yeah. Sometimes it's a pat on the hand, it's a nod of the head. For so many
A
people that
text.
they're not sure what to say, you don't have to say
Yes.
anything. You just have to be. You just have to be there for that person. Re- Recognize when you see that your friend or child
Yeah.
or partner, family member is struggling and say, "What do you need?"
Right.
They may not know what they need, and what they need
Mhm.
may change. Like I said, the first year, the second year going on, it may be completely
Yeah.
different. But just being asked and know that somebody's out there and who will listen, huge.
Yeah. I remember a situation where somebody lost a child, and to suicide. And so
Mm.
a whole nother level of pain that I don't even know how you would put into words. But I remember that person telling me nobody knows what to say,
Yeah.
so they didn't say anything. And
Oh,
she went through almost like a secondary loss of community and friendships, because everyone just kind of, right, like, separated themselves because they were almost uncomfortable not knowing what to do or what to say. And she just, yeah, that, I don't know, that memory just kind of popped in my head just now, to think, like, we also don't want to do that. Don't avoid those that are hurting. You know what hurting's like. It might be a different type of pain, but yeah, don't don't fix, but also don't ignore. Right? And how can I give grace
that
to
is
that
huge.
situation?
Don't fix,
Yeah.
don't ignore. Well said.
Yeah. Mm. Another form of grief that has recently been brought up to my attention was the grief of the what could have been,
Yeah.
right? And so, yes, there might be a friend's mom went from being a newlywed to a caregiver as her husband became ill. But although there was a grieving process of her loss, there was also a grieving process of the what she wishes would have happened, right? Like, what those days were supposed to be like. My father-in-law passed away in his 40s, and I think that my mother-in-law went through that of, hey, we were supposed to grow old together. We were raising, going to have, there was one grandson at the time, but you were going to be papa. All of those things were also being grieved. Now, she's been blessed and has been in a second marriage for just as many years, if not longer, than she was to my father-in-law. And she has a wonderful husband now. But I do remember that short period of time where there was still a, it's not fair. right? Like this shouldn't happen. Like we're not supposed to lose children. We're not supposed to, my dog is supposed to live forever. I don't want to ever have to put him down or have him, you know, be hurt or whatever that might be. But I guess being okay with knowing that grief doesn't have to be a physical loss. It could also be this is what I was imagining my life to look like, and it's not turning out that way.
I think a lot of people have that feeling. We have this
Mhm.
vision of what we think it should be, and it doesn't always turn out to be that vision. And it can feel sad. You know,
Mhm.
I can remember somebody saying, "Well, I'm a failure. It didn't turn out." And it's like,
Mhm.
no, you're not a failure. It
No.
just, things don't always turn
Mm.
out the way we think we want them
Yeah.
to. We hope they will. So, yeah.
And and sometimes there is, like we mentioned with the hope, there is good that can come out of some circumstances, right? That one door opens and one door closes, another door opens. So we might need to also be open to seeing where this new journey is going to lead us. Like, right? Like my mother-in-law would never have met, Jerry. My kids would never have a Papa Jer, right? If that hadn't happened. But in the moment, we're not thinking about the future, right? We're not
Mhm.
thinking of the newness that could be coming, the hope that could come out of a situation. One thing that helps me with my grief is just to know that I guess it's that so that moment. Like, why did I go through this? Does it feel fair? Most of the time, no, right? Never. I don't selfishly, I don't want to ever feel pain, right? I don't want my kids to ever go through pain. But there is a little bit of me as I get older that kind of thinks, all right, I went through this so that maybe I can be there for someone else that is going through that same type of loss, right? You will know how to support others that have lost a parent because you've lost your parents, and there might be others that can turn to you and know that there won't be getting criticism from you or judgment. They'll just get that hug or a text or a pat on the hand, as you said, and you'll be there for them however they need you to be.
Yeah. We go through difficult times, and nobody wants to go through difficult times. But
No,
but
gosh,
the
no.
reality is that we don't appreciate the other side until we get through the storm. When we
Right.
get through the storm and we realize that the clouds have parted and the sun will shine again, and we will feel happy and we will laugh again and we will feel love and feel supported. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go through that difficult time. And there's no time frame on it, you
Right.
just got to go through it.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, and you can't refuse to go through it.
Oh,
Right?
I
Like,
tried.
eventually.
I tried. I tried. I did.
Yeah.
I did the research and it didn't work. So yeah, no, you
Yeah.
definitely have to give yourself grace. Give yourself
Yeah.
grace with that.
Some compassion. Yeah. I guess in closing, I would just remind our listeners, remind each other that grief is universal, but it's deeply personal, that it's
Yes.
not something that we're going to get over, but also um, that we're not alone.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's something that we're going to learn to carry and to grow. As we grow, we're going to learn how to carry this grief and pain, but to know that you're not alone. And so we would love it if any of you, if this resonates with any of our listeners, you know, reach out, post a comment on YouTube or however you're watching this social media. Let us know if there's something that we missed, some way that you have found support or compassion, or you've given yourself permission to grieve in a way that we didn't mention. We'd love to hear it.
Yes. I think our next episode's not going to be quite so heavy. I think it's going to be a little bit more fun retail therapy wise.